We are live. Welcome, everyone, to HFPod on tour. I am Brian Brinkman of Osiris Media, and I'm here with a familiar face. It's RJB.
Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Brian. Thanks
How are
for
you,
letting
man?
me crash the party, man.
I think that I should be the one thanking you for letting me crash the party. I've taken over a few of these parties the last couple of days. It's been fun.
Yeah, you've been doing a great job. It's a lot of fun. It's hard work, but someone's got to do it.
Someone has to do it. Our teleprompter guy just keeps working on the fly. Is like I just keep making up new segments for the show. So no, but it's been a ton of fun. Thank you everyone for hanging with us here over the last couple of weeks as we've been breaking down tour. It's been a lot of fun on our end, and I think that as we'll get into here as we get into the show, it's been a lot of fun. It seems like on the band's end. I really enjoyed last night's show. What did you think, RJ?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I got to watch the stream and wrote the review for fish.net, so I gave it some thought this morning and I don't know, to me it was like a great combination of having fun but also being determined to do something. It seemed like they were playing with a lot of intention, which I think is great for fans and bodes well for AC.
Yeah, I felt that right from the jump with the "You Sexy Thing" opener and with early kind of micro jams in a song I heard the Ocean sing, as well as Wombat and the Haleys. But we're going to get into all of that. Before we jump into it, we have a great guest joining us here in a second that we're really excited to talk with. But I do want to remind everyone out there that HF Pod on Tour is presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. Shift Genuine Cannabis are our partners in bringing you this show as well as our weekly show, which comes out Tuesday mornings. We would encourage everyone listening, everyone watching, visit shiftcannabis.com. You can register there to win tickets to Fish's October 30th and 31st shows in Las Vegas, Nevada, as well as hotel and money towards airfare. Everyone who enters will have a coupon to get a penny joint at participating stores over Dick's weekend here in Denver from Shift Cannabis. So shiftcannabis.com for the contest details. We love you, Shift. Thank you guys for hanging with us here throughout HF Pod on tour. It's been a ton of fun for us. I guess without further ado, we should bring on our guest, shouldn't we? All right, we're going to hang out here with Megan Gliona. We're really excited. She was at the Hershey shows, and we're going to break this down. Megan, how are you?
I'm great. Hi, Brian. Hi, RJ.
Hey, Megan, how's it going?
Good. I can't believe I get both of you today. This is amazing.
It's just for you. We knew that we had to do it. Nice to see you.
It's great to see you.
So tell us, Megan, so these were your first shows of, and I'm just going to come out and say it like I have been, these were your first shows of 4.0.
Yeah.
And if anyone has any opposition to that in the comments, you can speak now. But you last saw them. We were talking prior to going live. You last saw them in MSG. I believe you said December 30th, 2019, which was a pretty good show.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with that show. I think I've listened to that show more than any other show I've ever listened to. It's such a magical show. That tweezer is amazing, so beautiful, and just Karini. I mean, Curtis Lowe. There's Karina. So many great songs in that show, and so my anticipation was pretty high for these shows.
Yeah, so you're seeing them here in Hershey, first time in about a year and a half or so. Tell me kind of what your thoughts were as you were getting in the weeks ahead of this show. Like what was your anticipation for these shows?
Yeah, it was really high. I mean, I've been listening to all the shows, listening to all the quick hits, and I think they sound amazing. And I just knew that they really, like you were saying, RJ, they're playing with so much intention. I think they have a really rich sound. They're, Trey's guitar, I learned so much about that from hearing from Ryan from Trey's guitar rig. And it was I was really pumped up about it and super excited to see what they were going to play. And it was fun. We got on lot, got to shake down. It was like the shakedown of our dreams. The sun was out. It's like a grilled cheese, a cold beer. And then it was like a torrential downpour. I mean, and my friends and I, we were completely unprepared. So we found like a vendor's RV and ran behind it. And there was like a folded up tent, and we crouched under it for 45 minutes while it rained. So, but we were so excited. You know, it's like every show I've seen this summer, I've seen 6 concerts. It's rained at every one. So I was expecting it, but yeah, it was super fun to be there, and just everybody seemed really excited. And I know there was a lot of probably first time show people hadn't seen, you know, on this tour yet, because East Coast show. So it was exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was watching the Deer Creek stream, and I think I mentioned this last weekend, that it seemed like the Midwest fans were getting their first show. Many people, you know, like just people were going nuts. When they started the first night, I mean, did you feel a similar thing? Like it was like, hey, welcome back to the East.
Yeah, I think people were really feeling that way, like very excited. And I was actually a little nervous because I love Deer Creek. Deer Creek, I grew up in the Midwest, so I grew up going to Deer Creek. I knew those shows were going to be hot. I just feel like Phish always brings it there. And I remember I was texting with a friend after those shows, and I was like, save some juice for the East Coast, boys. Like, don't leave it all there. Like, these shows have been really good. Like, so I don't know. I was kind of a little nervous about it because those shows were so good.
Such an interesting sensation as a Phish fan to watch a really strong show be played like 2 to 3 nights before you're about to go, and be like, I wish that you wouldn't have played that well, because it may not like translate over. Like you guys may need like a night of transition. I don't know. I don't know any other band where you're like, don't play that great for other fans of you guys.
Exactly. So selfish. Terrible. But I mean, even when they're not at their, you know, most exploratory or most groundbreaking, they're still phenomenal. And, you know, that's what I really felt like about night one. You know, it's still a great Phish show, even if, you know, the set list is a little disjointed, or, you know, there's not any long jams. It was still a great Phish show with some good moments.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So it's your first show back since 12/30/19.
Mhm.
Obviously, like we'll jump into a larger conversation around night 2, but what were kind of your general thoughts and takeaways from night 1, and from the venue, from just being in the show again, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big venue, but we were able to be like right up front. Like we were general admission on the field, and we just walked right up, and we were kind of like on the rail, but just way over to the side on page side. So we actually had a really good view of them, which is just so fun to be able to see them up close, and to see Trey's face and see their facial expression, see them laughing, like pointing at the rainbow, and, you know, kind of bantering. So it was really fun to kind of feel like, even though we were in this really big venue, it was still intimate, you know. That was really fun. But
Yeah,
I
I've
think
only
my
been.
highlights, oh, sorry, go ahead,
Well,
Brian.
I was just gonna say I've been to that venue once. I went in 2010, and I got a very similar vibe. It's a huge
Mhm.
space, but it feels small somehow, and it's easy to move
Mhm.
around. I loved being there.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. It was really easy to move around. It was nice. You could kind of like choose your spot. You had plenty of room to dance, but you could be close, which is nice.
So what were some of your highlights from the first night from a musical standpoint?
I really loved Gumbo. I thought it was kind of soupy and really fun to dance to, funky. The slowed down tempo was really cool. I really thought that Llama and Antelope were played like really well, like really precisely, really fast, and really well. And that was like really fun to kind of see those songs that I don't always love to hear, that played really well though. And I think that's kind of, I don't know, was my takeaway from that night, is that they're playing really well, even songs that, you know, they're not going deep on, or they're still, their sound is really good. And I think from second set, I mean, the No Man's is really great. It was such a fun opener, and that jam was great. And I think some of the segues that they're doing are really nice. Like that segue from Soul Planet into NICU was really just kind of like dropped in a way that I thought was like really, really nice.
And when you left the venue that night, there's the internet, you know, version of what the show was like, but what was it like for you and for the people you were with?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think that sometimes it's hard to be objective about if a Phish show is good or not when you're there, because, you know, it's a Phish show. Like, I was seeing my favorite band for the first time in 18 months or 20 months. So for me, I had a great time. And so it was interesting to kind of read everything about it and hear people's perspective of saying like, oh, the second set was really disjointed, or, they sounded off. And so it's sometimes a little soul crushing, but then you kind of, I don't know, pick yourself up and realize like you had a great time. It's okay. But everybody seemed really happy, on Tuesday night at the show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the interesting vibe of like we were talking about this before we went live, like being at a show and like all the serotonin rays, the energy level of like being there. Sometimes you're like, was this a good show? Like, did I see a good show? I had a really good time. And then you jump online and you're like, wait, everybody is like ragging on this. I mean, when you were at the show last night or on Tuesday, like, did you get a sensation of, based on what you've been hearing throughout the tour, like, was it on the level with what you had been hearing before? Were you kind of like, okay, this feels possibly like an off night, or are you just having like the time of your life no matter what?
I think first set felt better than second set as far as like second
Agree.
set came, and I was like, okay, this is a little wonky. Like it didn't feel, I could tell it wasn't going to be like a heater show, right? And that was okay. At that point, you just kind of like, I don't know, listen for the good stuff and just enjoy the night. But yeah, I mean, I could tell by second set, I think. But I thought first set was pretty good. I thought, I heard some songs that I haven't heard in a really long time. I was looking at the numbers, like they've played like 152 unique songs in 11 shows. Like that's a lot, And so I think that just the fact that they're kind of opening up their repertoire so early is exciting after being off for so long.
Yeah, it's a really interesting place that they're in. So you've been seeing Fish since 94.
Mhm.
You go back to that time period. The band has, I don't know how many songs they had at that point in time, but they played with a pretty tight rotation. And what
Mhm.
made like 94 and 95 so interesting is like they're now at a point where they're starting to, I don't want to say get sick of these songs, but like figure out wormholes out of the songs. So you're hearing a lot more
Mhm.
expansive jams. You're hearing these sets that like songs are segueing into each other. The interesting thing about now is, and I think I said this on a previous show, but they debuted so many songs in 18,
Mhm.
19, and now even in 21, that they're having to do this dual lift of play old songs like a gumbo that may get
Mhm.
one or two plays on a tour, but also figure out how does I Never Needed You Like This Before fit into our rotation. They've only
Mhm.
played it twice, once as an opener, once as a second set closer, but like that sort of song on like a previous tour would have been played 6 or 8 times, and like they would have figured out
Mhm.
exactly where it goes. It's an interesting place that they're in right now with all that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what they did really well last night, and we can talk more about that when we get to last night. But I think that they did a really nice job with that, placing new songs um, and kind of balancing that. And I was thinking about that a lot, like a song like "Bug" that I've been hearing them play for so long that can still sound rich and interesting and have a nice texture and tone to it, and sound kind of brand new. I think that's what makes this band so amazing, right?
And so, Megan, going into the second night, was there anything different that you felt about like and I know it also rained again. Did it feel like kind of the same thing? Because when they came out and started playing, it was like it was a huge like show from the very beginning. Did you feel anything different with the crowd or the vibes or anything, or was it like did it feel similar to Tuesday?
Yeah, I think before felt really similar because we had this exact same rainstorm that was like 45 minutes. It was actually more intense. I was on shakedown, like holding down a vendor's tent for him because it was going to blow away, trying not to get COVID from them. It was a very like intense pre-show gaming situation. But then yeah, I think everybody was just kind of hopeful, like, okay, this is your second night here. Let's see what you have on tap. And when they opened with You Sexy Thing, it was just dance party madness. Like, this is it. This is fun fish. This is dancey. Like, I think the whole show felt super fun, but it was still good music. It was still interesting and thoughtful and intentional. I was thinking about the one of them on the merch stand. They have a T-shirt that's like them playing tennis. It's like people playing tennis as part of the like merch for this tour. And I was thinking it's kind of apt for like how they're playing right now. They're really like rallying things back and forth and listening really well, and are really kind of, I don't know, laser focused on each other. And I was hearing that a lot last night in different jams, just how well, Paige and Trey will be listening to each other, or Fishman and Trey. And just, it's cool to see.
Yeah, I love that description. And like, it's one of those things that, it takes you back to like the origins of fish jamming, like the hay
Mhm.
hole exercises where
Yeah.
someone plays a riff and then, if Trey plays something, how does Paige interpret that and then replay
Mhm.
that, via his rig? And then how does Mike interpret it? And I felt like almost immediately in that Haley's, and I would even go back to like the Wombat
Mm.
that was
Mhm.
played really well. You heard those moments where someone's throwing out an idea and it's picking up with the other members. It kind of had me wondering, you compare night one and night two to each other. There were some really great improvisational moments in night one, but I almost wonder if like, we have a tendency to hear Deer Creek night one and be like, well, why doesn't Fish play like that every
Yeah.
night? That should be like the bar that they set for themselves, right? Well, maybe there are nights where they walk out and one person throws out an idea and nobody else feels it, or none of
Mhm.
these like
Yeah.
ideas connect. And sometimes, like the birds of a feather last night, there's just no stopping it. Like someone
Mhm.
throws out an idea, it's a great idea. The next
Mhm.
idea comes out, and then they just keep evolving from there. And I felt like from the moment You Sexy Thing came out, anytime you do a throwback to the Baker's Dozen, which like
Yeah.
a cover like that is a direct throwback, you're in just like a good space with Fish, and it just felt like that from
Totally.
note one.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah, I think they're really listening to each other in a way that's exciting, and I think that they've gotten so good at that, and also just allowing each other to have that space to try things. And I think that's what makes it interesting for them. Like I see them having fun, and I feel like that's like a lot of like the Fishman samples, which he didn't do really at all last night, but more on Tuesday. But if the band's having fun, they're going to keep playing, and that's what we want, right? Like we want them to keep playing like that. And I think that sometimes people forget that this is actually an art form. It's not prescriptive. Like if they could have a perfect show every night, it wouldn't be magic, right? Like that's what art is. It's music, painting, all of that stuff. It's just it happens in the moment or it doesn't, and so I think we're lucky and we're really spoiled because it happens more than it doesn't with Fish. And I think we listen so intently, right, that we actually I don't know, are finding more moments that sometimes disappoint us when really we're just totally blessed with this band. I mean, they're just awesome.
I'm curious with regards to that. Like, it's such a good point. Like thinking about your last show being in late 2019 and a really
Mhm.
great show with, Tweezer that is an all-time version. The Blazon in set one is
Mhm.
just because of where it's placed within a show with a 36-minute Tweezer. I think it's always going to be criminally underrated and overlooked, but it's a
Totally.
brilliant jam. Seeing that, going through everything we all went through in 2020 and into 2021 and are still going through, that sense of like acceptance of like what Fish is throwing out there, regardless if it like fully connects. Do you feel that that's something that like you feel more now than you did perhaps in the past, or is that like a way you've always approached seeing the band?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think, it kind of has ebbed and flowed. I think when I was seeing them a lot, like in mid to late 90s, I was seeing, lots of shows a year. And so that gets really, you get kind of myopic in that you're kind of like in this world of like, what's good, what's not, what was the best show, what wasn't, what was the best jam, where sometimes it's nice to just step back and be like, I'm just feeling super grateful about being here and getting what I get. And I think also just, we were talking a little bit before. I think that so much of what I learned about during the pandemic was that Fish was there for me in a way that I needed them. And even though they weren't performing live, I still was able to kind of access that magic and tap into joy that I feel like, last night during Maze, like, which it was so funny because before the show, I said to my friend, the song I could kind of go without hearing is Maze. And of course, the minute you utter that, they will play it. Like, that is like definitely going to happen. And so they played it. And I remember standing there during the song at the end, and it was just peaking really beautifully. And the whole crowd was just having this moment of just like collective joy. And I just thought, like, this is the band that can always kind of make me eat my words, you know? And I think that that's kind of, that's so fun.
Yes, I really enjoy being wrong about fish for that same reason.
Exactly. Prove me wrong, please.
So that the first set last night was
Mhm.
completely, I mean, it seemed like the whole thing was completely awesome, and Jason put the comment up there.
Yes.
It seems like the Haley's comment is kind of the big point of that set. What else did you hear, and what did you think about that set overall?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I was thinking about during Wombat, like the interview that you guys did during Alive Again with Trey saying that he likes to make music, like what he likes to push that boundary between what's so weird but still danceable. And I was thinking about that during that Wombat. Like that's such a song that's like super weird, but you can kind of dance to it. But like it's just, I thought that that's totally how he is with that stuff. And that jam was like really interesting. And the Haley's is always one of my favorite songs, but that was, you know, it's like the longest one in 10 years or something, right? Or 11 years. And I thought it was just beautiful. Like really, really went pretty places and interesting, like so early kind of in the set. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. I think the Haley's comment into Lonely Trip was like so perfect. Like that, I've been dying to hear that song. I love that song. And it was just a perfect cool down after like a really hot jam, just this really sweet little moment. I remember I looked over and there was like this 9-year-old boy and he was just like feeling it. And I was like, wow, this kid is awesome. He's like feeling like a Trey ballad. This is great. But I feel like it's like my new favorite Trey ballad. It was just really, really beautiful and really placed well. And I hope that that kind of gets heavily played in the future because it was really nice. I really liked that.
Yeah, that was it was a perfect segue out of the Haleys, and, like, anytime you
Mhm.
get a debut that comes out of a jam, I feel like the band just knows, like, this feels right,
Yeah.
and I've I mean, it brings up a larger point, like, I think about this tour overall, I think about the second night at Deer Creek, I think about night 1 at Hershey, and last night. I have loved the way that ballads have come across this tour, and it's
Mhm.
something that, like, has always been like a yeah, if you go and listen to like the Grateful Dead versus Fish, like ballads really come across with really well in Grateful Dead tapes. But in
Mhm.
Fish shows, like there's always been that complaint of like, well, the energy suffered. Do I really want to hear this now when they could play a
Mhm.
jam? But like I think to Deer Creek night 2, like the Roguet, the What's the Use, the Waiting,
Mhm.
the Waste on night 1 when Trey was
Yeah.
incorporating that effect throughout his like chordal progression in the Waste, it was just amazing. And then Lonely Trip kind of capped it off thus far as like really well structured songs that are just the band is putting a lot of heart and a lot of energy in. And I've been loving that.
Yeah, I think their singing sounds amazing. I was listening to Bug, like the harmonies between Trey and Paige. I don't know if it's from their album, you know, of them just really listening to each other, but the harmonies during Bug were gorgeous. They sounded so good. And I know, RJ, you mentioned Trey singing in your review of the show last night on fish.net. He sounds great. And you can tell like he's been really enjoying singing and working on it. I mean, that's probably the biggest difference I can tell when I listened to them in the 90s compared to now is just the kind of delicacy and thought and breath and emotion that he's singing with is just it's mature and it's really nice.
Yeah, it's really noticeable in a lot
Mhm.
of songs, not just, the newer songs, but yeah, it's really cool. Um, the the second set, I like the pattern of like the kind of build up jam before they, as opposed to starting the set with Down with Disease or Tweezer, which also would be cool, but it's cool to like build up with theme. There've been some songs that I wouldn't expect opening the second set,
Mhm.
and I don't know if the crowd at this show is expecting it, but I feel like it's a good way to ease into the set. Do you think people like when they open with theme or some or more like whatever are are fans like bummed out, or do you think people are giving them like, okay, this is a way to start the set? I'm just curious what the energy was like at that moment.
Yeah, it was pretty dialed in. It's a beautifully played theme. Like it's really pretty. It sounds really good. It's another really old song, but just really like intentional and like really great tone. I thought it sounded really good. So I thought people were, they don't mind the warm up, I think. I think it's
Yeah.
more jarring to people when once you're in the set and you're like riding a wave and it crashes or goes somewhere different. But I think people are willing to kind of ease in.
Yeah. Yeah. But certainly was a build up to that Birds of a Feather, which I saw watching on the webcast. I saw because the camera angle right at the end of Theme was of Trey talking to Fishman, so you could see him say Birds of a Feather.
Oh, really?
It was like, yeah. Awesome. And that's just sort of like wow, not what I was expecting, but it turned out great. Turns out they're going to play whatever they want. And and usually it's great, but that was I thought that was really cool. It to me had like the combination of the new sounds, but also kind of a familiar feeling of a jam, but really long and probably too much going on for me to actually describe. But it seemed pretty cool to me.
Yeah, that's actually how it felt there. I was listening to it again this morning, that Birds of a Feather, and trying to kind of, I don't know, get an idea of what I felt about that jam. And it just went a lot of places. Like it was interesting. And I think, I think them playing with all of these new synth sounds and, the guitar pedals and all this stuff. I don't know a lot about music, but it just seems like they have a lot of things they're trying. And it was fun to hear some of that. I feel like the kind of space portal sound that they've been doing, like we got a little bit of that in like Fuego on night one. And it was really fun to hear like the spaceship, kind of sound. I was into it. But yeah, the Birds of a Feather was interesting. It was a lot going on.
They're balancing out this, like you've said it, like these really beautiful jams, like the Haleys went to this just like blissful space. Like I re-listened to it this morning and I was just like, this is like the perfect type of first set jam. It's like breezy. You're not like, you don't feel like overwhelmed. And they went to that in the Birds of a Feather, but then they also have this ability to go to a really evil and dark and like, interstellar type of space as well. And this is a non-musicologist language, I promise. but but like it's wild how they're like balancing out this approach that's very melodic, but it doesn't feel repetitive, but then also like they can move into a noise type of jam that almost sounds like 1995 or 2003. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's so funny to see all of that in one show too. And sometimes all in one jam. Like I think I'm always there for the Blissy Peaks. Like that's like Love and Light Fish. Like I love that. Like that's definitely like so happy, but it's fun to see them trying some kind of dark stuff too. And I think it leads to some really cool places.
Yeah, it seems to be challenging them in like the best ways possible, because that like Bliss Peak, I think of like the Joy from the Baker's Dozen, where like every jam seemed to rise up into a major key. Like everyone's got their hands up, the whole arena sounds united, and that's an awesome feeling. But like you're saying, there's something about Fish moving into a zone that is kind of evil, kind of challenging. And if they can do it well, and if they can, really tap into it, I don't know. I think that's a sound that a lot of us listeners all, continuously come back for.
Yeah, it's like really deep, really primal sounding. And I think that that's fun to dance to. Like I love to dance at shows. And so I like to like get into that soup. And like, I think people like to like get low and feel that bass and feel Fishman's just big, beat drums. And you're just like, yeah, like that's taps into some primal need we all have to kind of let stuff go. It's good.
I'm into it.
Me too.
That's a great description. Yeah, it's really cool. It's interesting how much of the sound has been of the way you're describing it this tour. I feel like most of the jams, there've been very few kind of peaking jams this tour, which is cool. It's good to, I think many listeners, especially like very musical listeners, would probably see it as like those major key Bliss jams are like a little bit of a crutch or something, like they can go to it anytime, and it's a good way to like get the crowd and excited and build a peak. Like that's great. That's what Fish has been doing forever, but it's cool to see them mixing that up with other approaches.
I agree. It's really cool.
Should we bring in our other guest, Brian? You're muted, but I think you said yes.
I'm muted, but yes, we should bring so we're doing this live. Let's bring Patrick on. Megan, you want to hang out as well? Cool.
Yeah, love to.
Patrick, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing very well, man. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. Patrick and I have known each other a long time and have seen countless Fish shows together, and we should have been together this week, but we weren't. But it seems like you survived anyway.
I survived. I'm a little upset with you. You owe me $100, but
seems fair. Patrick, you mentioned one of our viewers just mentioned the ocean songs and said three ocean songs.
Yeah, I saw that.
When we were talking this morning. Was that like that was notable to you during the song
Yeah, I was sort of like, are you guys lost? You played Prince Caspian, Ruby Waves. So I went on vacation in Florida in May, and I every night I went down to the beach and played guitar and yelled at the ocean, and I was trying to play as many Fish ocean songs as possible, and they played all of them. I mean, I'm sure they have more, but there was a lot of ocean songs.
Well, Patrick, we asked Megan about this, but did you see any difference in there's obviously a difference in the playing between the two nights, and you could chalk that up to any of hundreds of different variables that have to come together for a band to play a show. But did you feel anything different going into the show last night from Tuesday, or what was that? What was the difference, if any?
I think it's just the more once you've been to a place, you can navigate everything better. So I think the second night, it's just everybody every single person there knows what they did last night and knows how this night can go better. So I think that last night was a step up. I mean, I thought they were both great, but I think just everybody knew what to do, from the people taking tickets to the people selling beers, or and all the fans too.
What were some of your highlights from last night's show overall?
So yeah, I think, what did Megan mention? In the first set, the Haleys obviously was amazing. The whole party time thing in the second set, I'm not sure we've mentioned the light party time thing. That was really good. Yeah, I mean, I like Free. I've been playing Free on the guitar a lot, so I was excited for them to play Free. I think actually the beginning, which RJ mentioned, the You Sexy Thing Wombat, that was really, really nice. I enjoyed that. And I think that whole first set was just this sort of funky, they come back into You Sexy Thing. And so I think that was great. And the Birds of the Feather, which Megan mentioned as well, it was sort of a surprise, right? It wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear for the second set, and the second song in the second set, but it was very good.
Yeah, when they started Birds, I was like, this is going to go in a number of different directions. Either they're going to really lock in, or we could just be one song type of thing. I was thinking about, they played a really great Birds of a Feather at Blossom in 2019 and kind of broke through the song structure. I think it was 22, 23 minutes. And then following that, and they have a penchant to do this, if they jam a song that they haven't jammed in a while, subsequent versions may not get the jam treatment, but they're all really interesting. And there were a lot of really fascinating versions of Birds of a Feather throughout 2019. And it was really cool to hear them just almost immediately tap back into it. They played it in Nashville, I believe, a week prior in the exact same slot, but it felt like right away the band just connected out of the solo. And from the couch, at least, we were talking about, Megan, it went into this melodic territory, and then it got a little bit noisy, and then it went back into a melodic territory. And pretty soon you're just these guys are just playing as though there's nobody here. I loved it. Yeah,
it was a lot better than that one a week ago, I think, right? Because a week ago, I mean, that was probably a better set a week ago. But,
Patrick,
it was interesting. There are a lot. Oh, sorry, RJ. I was just
go ahead, Megan.
There was a lot of songs that they played on the first night of Hershey that were played 6, 7, 8 shows ago. And it's interesting to see that kind of I think you were talking about that, Brian, before in one of the quick hits, there's this kind of core of songs that they're kind of moving through, Bathtub Gin and, Ghost and Birds of Feather. And it's interesting to see them kind of bring them back while kind of playing all this other new stuff too.
Yeah, the way the rotation kind of evolves and comes together while also debuting Lonely Trip and bringing this song back. Light has, I think,
Mhm.
only been played twice at this point in time. And, trying to figure out where everything fits in a tour that is like, it almost feels like we have two summer tours. Like it's a shorter break, obviously, between
Mhm.
what we would see in like early 3.0 when they'd play June and then August. But it feels like we're like reaching a peak in Atlantic City, and then we'll take a breath,
Mhm.
and then we'll hear them out west and hear how they sound, in that space.
Patrick, I want to ask you, because you're a guitar player, and Megan, if you have thoughts as well, just on the different sound this tour from the last time you saw Fish, just in terms of Trey's setup and the tone. Like, did you notice? I didn't really notice in Nashville. It just sounded like Fish to me. So, curious
Well,
if
he's
you
got
had.
that like growler, which is like the real, like I'm not sure if it's a Jedi pedal, right? You had the guy. So that I think the two big sounds that I hear are the growler sound, which I heard like I re-listened on the car ride today. I heard that a lot in the jams, just like rah, rah, rah. And then that like I think it's an arpeggiator. I don't know what it is, but the do 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 like whatever he hits that like he actually hits it once and it makes 8 sounds. I heard that a few times as well too, which I think is like a super cool sound.
Mhm.
Yeah, I tend to just call it the helicopter, and it's not accurate by any, but like whenever I hear that because I think the first time I remember hearing that was in the Alpine Ruby Waves. There's like an actual jam built off of that effect,
Oh, okay.
and hearing it again, a dotted
Yeah,
eighth
dotted
delay.
eighth delay. That's
Mm.
really that's what my Fish guitar heads people say as well. Yeah.
I love it. He plays it, and it's just like it reminds me of when he relied on the tremolo so much in 2.0, where you'd get into these dark jams, and then he would just like play a chord that would be repeated over and
Mhm.
over, and it's psychedelic and it's wild. It's a really cool sound.
That's great. Then the lights. I mean, the lights were. I feel like they had their full light. Whatever you want to call it, their full light show. And I think, as far as I can tell, Alpharetta was the only time they've had their full light show, other than the last few days. So I sort of felt like they were just like kicking off the cobwebs, sort of like, okay, what can this do? Like, let's do that.
Mhm.
And yeah, that nice like, yeah, I would call it the rainbow, not the what'd you call it? The helicopter.
The helicopter. The
Helicopter,
helicopter.
yeah.
It's like a little too harsh for me. I don't want to hear a helicopter. Like but
The
I see
rainbow
what
is
you're
nice.
saying.
Yeah,
It's like,
taste the rainbow. It's good.
we're breaking new ground here. And so, Patrick, we've talked a lot about the concerts coming back, and just today, Fish announced that as of the Gorge and beyond, they're going to require vaccination or negative COVID test for admission. I know you've been following this and nervous about it. How did it feel for you being at the shows?
it felt okay. We went up on the side both nights. The first night we were on Mike's side. The second night we were on Paige side. So we were probably like 5 rows from the back. So what we did was just like put on masks when we were going in, and then like once we got to our seat, take off masks. But yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I'm glad that they're requiring vaccination. I think that that's like the smart thing to do. Yeah, but no, I definitely like, my wife is has a little more anxiety than I do. And today she was like, should you wear a mask in the house for the next 2 days? I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I didn't get COVID at the Fish concerts. Like I'm I feel confident, who knows? I mean, the whole world is so ridiculous right now, but I felt pretty good about it. Like we camped, we, wore a mask when you're going inside. And I thought a lot of people, I would say at least half people wore masks, like moving through the crowd. I saw, at least where I was, we weren't really on the field or anything like that, but yeah, I felt pretty good about it. Who knows? But
What about you, Megan?
Yeah, I wore a mask because I wanted to be on the floor and I was around everybody. The first night I didn't wear it as much. And then I just got a little freaked out about it because I have a daughter who's not vaccinated yet. She's not eligible. She's at camp right now, so I have built in some time, but I just got a little nervous. So I wore a mask while I was kind of dancing, anywhere near other people. But I'm really glad they're requiring it. I think it's going to make people feel a lot more comfortable and just a lot safer. And I think it's just the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing from the webcast more people masked up than I was seeing in the first couple of shows. It seemed
Mhm.
like in Arkansas and Alpharetta that it was like you'd see one person, then you'd see another person like 10, 10 or 12 people
Yeah.
away from them. And it kind of felt like a free for all. And I feel like, their tour has happened at a time that we've learned a lot and that we've seen a lot of both things change on a national level, but also a lot of bands, like you're seeing it with like Jason Isbell, you're seeing it with Fish, like they're kind of digging in their heels and saying, we have to tour, we have to continue, we have to be able to generate income in this way. But these are the new requirements, and fans are starting to adapt. It would appear through the TV screen at least a little bit better.
Mhm. I mean, I think the band wants people to wear masks if they're really close to other people. Like they said that in their announcement today. I think that they do not want this tour shut down, and we don't either, right? So I think that it might be a good idea to kind of take care of each other that way and take care of the band and the crew. And I feel like things have changed actually. Like, if this tour was in May, it would be different, but
Yeah.
I think the circumstances have changed a little. So I'm glad to see the band responding to that. I think it's really awesome.
If you had told me throughout 2020 that all I needed was like a piece of cloth over my face to see
Exactly.
Fish live, I would have done it without any sort of hesitation. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Exactly.
So both of you, as we're kind of looking towards, we have Atlantic City coming up this weekend, and then the band goes out west. Do you both have shows coming up, or was this your run for 2021? Where do you stand in terms of future shows?
Do you want to go ahead, Patrick?
Yeah, this is it for me. So we'll see. Thanks, Megan. I had such a good time because it was just like, who knows when we're going to do this again?
Mm-hmm.
As you guys were talking about the pandemic, I mean, it's such an uncertain world. So yeah, so this is it for me, but I was very, very happy to be able to do it.
Yeah, this is it for me for now. I was supposed to go to Atlantic City, but life has gotten in the way. But I'm hoping for like a 6-pack at MSG for New Year's. So I'm putting that out in the universe. 6-pack, MSG. Everybody has to be vaccinated. It'll be great.
This is your Maze strategy.
Yes, exactly.
Just say you don't want 6 shows, and they're going to announce them.
Okay, that's what I don't want 6. I hope they take them really far away.
I like how you put it. This is it for me for now. That's always like you walk out of your last Fish show of the year and you're like, well, I could be talked into a couple more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that door's never fully shut, never fully shut.
There was a great, I think it was like Lot Mart put out a meme that was, I have $12 in my bank account. I will be purchasing tickets to every Fish show that's coming up.
So true. So true.
Well, awesome, guys. Any kind of last thoughts about the Hershey run, or kind of what you're both hearing, just with regards to Fish right now?
I did have one question I wanted to ask you about Chalk Dust Torture. Did anyone hear how Trey was ending the verses like on an up inflection when he was singing? I've never heard him do that before. Has he ever done that before?
So I don't know if he's ever done it before. I definitely heard what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I felt like he's really messing around with the way he sings right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was the verse of Gumbo that he sang like an octave higher, and he's like emphasizing certain lyrics differently. The way I interpret it, and I haven't gotten to the Chalk Dust in my re-listen yet. I paused right around Ruby Waves before we all went live. But the impression I got was that they went into Chalk Dust faster than they usually do. And he was almost playing catch up throughout it and then just kind of like leaned into it. But I don't know if there's anyone in the audience or if RJ, if you heard anything differently.
Yeah, I just feel like he was just having fun. That was my interpretation while listening, but that's just my simplistic view.
I was very, very happy to scream, "Can I live while I'm young?" Like, loudly.
Yeah.
I think that was the whole purpose of that, which I appreciate.
Yeah, coming off of a show like that and the place that we're at right now, it's there are certain lines that resonate a little bit more, deeply now, and then that's always been one that I've loved to yell, but especially now.
I think Fishman has a quote where he's like, "I want to be like 75 and yelling, 'Can I live while I'm young?'"
Yes.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm glad that you were both still able to live while you were young these past couple days.
Me too.
Yes, me too. Get rained on. See some good fish. It's just that's the stuff that we were laughing for the show. My friend and I were like, "Are we too old to get rained on like this?" No, because this is like the stories you tell. It's like, yeah. So I'm gonna live while I'm young for sure.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging with us here today. This was a ton of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so
good
much.
to see you both. See you
Really
guys
good to
soon.
see
Hopefully.
you. And I hope you enjoy AC, RJ, and I'm
Thanks.
excited for you for Dick's. That's going to be next level, Brian.
It's my favorite weekend of the entire year, and I say it all the time. It's like 85% of the reason why we moved from the East Coast to Denver is just for this weekend. I like the mountains and everything. I like the sunshine, but like that first weekend in September every year, like whenever that comes around, I'm here for it. So
that's so awesome. I'm a teacher, so I can never go because my first day of school is like right after, and it's just always devastating. So live it up for me, please.
We will.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys both so much.
Yeah,
This was a ton of fun, and I'm really glad you guys got to see such an awesome show last night at Hershey.
$100 to the demo, RJ.
All right, no problem. Bye, guys.
All right. Well, thank you all for hanging with us, RJ. That was fun. We got
really fun. Thanks for letting me tag along.
Yeah, man, that was great, and thank you everyone out there for listening, for hanging with us here. Thank you for everyone who's commenting. Just quick reminder to our adoring listeners out there, HFPod on Tour is presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis. HFPod was reborn thanks to Shift Genuine Cannabis. We love our partners at Shift, and keep an eye out. We have stories and insights about the company throughout our weekly episodes. So we really encourage you guys to continue learning about them. They're a fantastic company. And please visit shiftcannabis.com. You can enter into their contests daily between now and the Saturday at Dick's to win tickets to October 30th and 31st in Las Vegas, Nevada, plus hotel and money towards airfare. Really awesome contest that they're running. We will be announcing the winner on Sunday at Dick's, which I'm really excited about. We'll be changing someone's life. It is going to be amazing.
It's going to be great, and we're going to have more next week about the cannabis, the Osiris cannabis that will be available throughout that weekend. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. So we're going to tell you guys more about that next week.
We've seen it.
We saw it.
It's amazing.
It's real.
We saw it.
It's real.
It's awesome. Real. It's real. It's really real. Well, thank you all for hanging with us, and we will see you back here Saturday morning to recap night 1 of Atlantic City. I'm excited for it.
See you then.
See you then.